now a hot cruise for oil tankers? Or, yep, not really. Virginia may be for lovers, but it's not for mergers. Copper, new highs. SpaceX ignores the lockup as space stocks explode. Hans, top pick, crushes earnings yesterday, and much, much more. We got an exciting show for you. We've got a lot to pack in a short period of time. So, we better roll those credits. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon to my friends across the pond. Welcome to the State of the Market Show. I'm Mark Sebastian. I am the founder and CEO of OptionPit.com. I'll be joined by our own head of income trading and AI specialist, Hans Albrecht, here shortly. He's going to be talking about some of the big winners over earnings season so far, along with much more. But let's start with the market. We did get non-farm payrolls, and they were a miss. They were flat out miss. The amount of jobs grown was actually negative for the first time in quite some time. We were looking for a gain of 83,000. We lost 23,000. The unemployment rate dipped, which is pretty interesting. Big one, hourly wages, bad for the worker, great for the market. Only up 0.1%, and wages year over year up 3.2%. So everything you're looking at says don't raise rates, and markets are, initially liking it. We've come off a little bit. Right now, the S&P is up about 11, the Dow up about 29 points. The NASDAQ's the leader, up about 34 basis points, and then the Russell 2000, lower rates, great for small caps. It's up 0.5%. RSP equal weight up 0.4%. Kind of tells you where the market is. It's being led by the interest rate sensitive stocks. That is a big win for those names. We've already kind of talked about the bond market. Bond market is getting a little bit of a pop today. Nothing huge, but a little bit of a pop. And looking at the Japanese yen versus the dollar, initially sold off after the non-farm report. It is up, kind of holding here. Be interested to see if they're able to kind of hang on to things. And, we're still, who knows from a deal. Oil is up this morning. It's near the lows, but it is up this morning. So that if you're wondering why bonds aren't skyrocketing higher, it's because oil. Right now, oil is going to, and bonds are tied at the hip. Oil up, bonds down, oil down, bonds up. And that continues to be our story. We did get some earnings. DKNG reported yesterday, initially up, but look at this for how much betting is going on. It's amazing how these old school betting sites just can't seem to get any love. Now, one of the big winners, Airbnb, makes me think, let's take a hard look at some of these hotels today in Delta Strike, because Airbnb is having a great quarter, Verbo, but I think that points toward maybe hotels maybe not being in as bad a shape as we think. So I'm going to take a look at, Hilton, Starwood, some of these other hotels, and be playing around with those, maybe some of the airlines even. But Airbnb just absolutely crushing earnings. The last one and we're going to dig into this one more in a second, Cloudflare, NET, ticker symbol NET. absolutely exploding higher. This was Hans's absolute, um, conviction trade over the last 4 months. And he has been so right on this one. He started talking about net at the beginning of the year. And look at the move. If you were trading with Hans in February and got into Cloudflare net, you're up 100% if you just bought the stock. Now imagine being involved with the options with Hans. We're going to talk about that in a little bit with Hans. Just one more time, looking at things with non-farm payroll. It's interesting that a report like this at this point would cause markets to rally. And I think it tells us kind of where the mentality of the market is. We have CPI next week. That's going to be a big number. But with non-farm payrolls, a miss is okay. In line appears to be okay. A big win. So if we come in next month and jobs are up and they're expecting 50,000 and we produce 250,000 jobs, great for the U.S. economy. I think it's going to be bad for the stock market. So with our economy right now, CPI aside, PPI aside that are next week, bad might be good. And I don't love when that's the case. But if you're a stock investor right now, stock market's not the economy, bad is good. So keep that in mind. All right. Now, you heard me just talking about Cloudflare and net and how this has been Hans's conviction buy. Let's go straight to the horse's mouth and bring in our chief income trader, head of income trading here at Option Pit, and our resident AI expert, Hans Albrecht, to talk about what he's seen in net so far and talk about some of the other earnings winners and losers and how he's positioning himself for the next quarter. Let's just bring him in. Folks, here is Hans Albrecht. Good morning, Hans.
Good morning, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing great. Not as well as you. Cloudflare, net. This is one you have been pounding the table on for months. I mean, when did you first start talking about this one? I want to say this was one of your picks for the year. Was that am I right in thinking that?
I think
this is one
I've been talking
on top
about the
of.
agentic. Yeah, I've been talking about the agentic swarms. Probably since about December, and I said this is the stock, and it is volatile and it's expensive. But this is the stock that really you've heard me talk about it on Ticker Highlight Show, guys. If you're not a member of Ticker Highlight, you're missing out on incredible trades. So this is one where I said, listen, this is a world where we are just going to create more data, more software, all of it points to more traffic on the internet. And one thing that's interesting that they said is, so first of all, think of these guys as like an internet bouncer. Okay, so you may have noticed you float around on the internet and you see this little pop-up that you get, and it says click here, and it's Cloudflare. So they're in a world of agentic swarms. And what does that mean? Well, that just means sort of everyone just creating billions and billions of these agents. So agents will far outnumber humans, and they will be transacting, they will be doing things on the internet, they will be doing every manner of replacing many of the things that we do while we sleep 24/7. So it's going to be just an absolute chaotic kind of world on the internet. And the problem is there are good guys, there are bad guys, there are trustworthy agents, and so you need somebody to police that. So that's part of why cybersecurity has been coming back, because this is going to turn into a bit of a problem. And Cloudflare has this unique position of being one of the incumbent bouncers. I call it one of the bouncers on the internet. And they said something very interesting last night. For the first time ever, agentic activity makes up for more than 50% of the activity on their servers. So this isn't.
Oh.
these days you got to think of where do I know things are going as opposed to, okay, I'm gonna bet on this chip maker or that chip maker. I don't know what's going to get disrupted. One
So
thing we know,
Hans,
Mark, is
I
that
want to
there's just going to be more of
I want to
everything.
pause you for 1 second, Hans, because I think what you just said bears repeating. When you say an agentic use, you're talking about AI agents or AI interactions on their servers exceeded human activity for the first time ever. So there were more bots talking to people or other bots than there were people talking to people or people talking to bots. Is that what you just said?
Yeah, and to add to that, this is just the beginning. We are literally, sometimes I joke, everyone says, "Oh, it's the first inning." This is like you just hit the snooze button and you're thinking of, well, what am I going to eat? Am I going to have the Fruit Loops for breakfast or maybe the Count Chocula?
Chocula?
That's
Mm.
where we're at. We're not even on our way to the ballpark to the first inning. So from that standpoint, agentic is like, think of it. What's a steep trajectory? Is 90% steep? That's pretty steep. So take 90% and just dial it back just a little bit. We're just going to be doing more and more online, and that's going to create a real problem from a security standpoint. And so these guys are there to kind of manage that. And so um, it's a business that's just going to explode. And these guys, again, so like some other businesses, they're in the right place at the right time. So I've really loved them for that aspect. It's not a cheap stock. It's not a massive margin business, but it is one that's going to be indispensable.
Clearly. And this is one you've been trading in and out of in Turbo Income, correct?
Mark, what is your choice? Is it Count Chocula, Boo Berry, Apple Jacks, or
I am a
tell us what you
100%
like?
Count Chocula. 100% Count Chocula. When the monster cereals come out, my wife will tell you, I stock up on them because they're only available to Halloween. And I will typically have, over the course of the year, somewhere between 8 and 12 boxes of Count Chocula go through my pantry. It's my guilty pleasure. I've loved it since I was a little kid. When I was a little kid, we were never allowed to have junky cereals. Like my mom, like we had
Right.
Cheerios at home. Never. The only time you were allowed to have junky cereals was on your birthday. My mom would buy. We could pick our breakfast cereal, and I always picked Count Chocula. And so
Now every
I
day
had
is
three
your
brothers.
birthday. Every day. You're the boss,
Yeah.
Mark, so you can
Now
eat whatever you want. Everybody
every day.
in the chat, everyone put in what is your favorite, and it could be something else. It can be Captain Crunch, it can be Cheerios if you're really boring, but throw it in there.
Oh, well, there were so many cool ones when we were kids that they don't have anymore. Mr. T cereal, Smurfberry
Oh
Crunch.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
they had a Star Wars cereal. I believe they even had a He-Man cereal at one point. Like that was back when they could just sell whatever crap they wanted, right?
Yeah.
But yes, those
And
cereals.
all you had to do is write, a source of, 7 essential nutrients and vitamins on the box, which you could get away with somehow. And,
Yes.
it was fair game.
Part of-
So I can picture you.
part of this
I am
complete
the
breakfast-
He-Man is near and dear to your heart, isn't it, Mark?
It is. Part of this complete breakfast, they show the cereal, and then around it was an apple, a banana, a glass of orange juice, 3 eggs, and a piece of toast. But
All right.
so, Hans, getting back to Cloudflare. So this is one you've traded pretty actively in Turbo Income, and we're now starting to kind of get to the end of earnings season, right? We still have Nvidia a couple of weeks away, but I want to say like 85% of companies have basically reported by now. Certainly, the large companies, the S&P, are mostly done. Do you have any kind of broad takeaways from this season so far? And how is that going to dictate how you trade for the next quarter until the next cycle?
Well, it is. I think it's become clear, and that's part of the bounce back in tech has been. Listen, the build out is still on, right? The build out is not slowing. In fact, it's probably accelerating. Now there are some issues because Amazon said their capex is going up 10% because of the cost of memory. So there are cost issues. And we know that yields are a problem. Today's number helps us a little bit. But at some point, I mean, I was looking at a cash flow chart, Mark, for the hyperscalers, and the height of the cash flow was sort of the bonanza was in sort of 2024 into 2025, and then they started spending money, right? So free cash flow, they have operating cash flow, but
Right.
it isn't. If you sort of look at the next 4 or 5 years, this was Goldman, I think it was. So you have to take everything with a grain of salt because in the age of AI, our predictions are as are to be taken with that big a grain of salt the size of a jawbreaker, just to bring us back to the 80s again. One of
Right.
those gigantic jawbreakers, not the small one like a big one. So everything's up in the air. But the point is, they need to keep spending, right? So, and I think that's why the mags ran up, and I said, I don't know if I can chase them here because they need to keep spending. And Microsoft's being given the benefit of the doubt because they actually have positive free cash flow. But this chart sort of showed you that they don't get back to the levels from 2024 until 2029. So again,
Oh,
Google did a
wow.
big issue. They did a big issue. So the problem is those are incredible businesses, but they're literally building a skyscraper. And if they don't keep building, they have demand for the entire 500 floors in a gigantic skyscraper. The demand is there, but they need to keep building to keep up with it. So they have no choice in terms of the pure clouds. So, but that's good for the components that go into those things. So the semiconductors, the memory, and then there's the other side, which is the data beneficiaries, and we've seen all of those really run. The snowflakes, which is again something I've been talking about all year. The snowflakes, the Datadogs. Datadog slipped yesterday. Palantir having a big comeback. So when you think of where things have to go, I know I'm going on, but where things have to go, well, it's going to be more traffic on the internet. It's going to be more data. It's going to be more cloud requirements. And so if you kind of keep focused on those things, those are the things that have to happen. We are only going to use more and more AI, and you want to think about the companies that are agnostic. Cloudflare doesn't
Hmm.
care who is on the internet, but they benefit from everyone using it, and that's a story that I think has legs.
The Cloudflare has some legs. Now there is a risk here, and there was a big story last night that I think is under the radar. Um, what do all of these data centers and all of this compute need more of anything than anything? What do they demand? What energy? They
Power.
cannot operate, right? Everything needs power. And I don't know if you saw this, but the governor of Virginia blocked the merger of Dominion Energy and NextEra Energy. Um, in what was a pretty big shocker. Um, and does this kind of dictate maybe some political backlash against the hyperscalers and the data centers? And is this is it time to start going back and look at a New Scale Power or a Oklo or some of these startup energy names and take a second look? What do you see a kind of big picture out of the energy problem being produced by artificial intelligence?
Yeah, and those are really great points, Mark, because the sort of strange thing about the build out is that the bottleneck isn't the demand is there. The bottleneck is going to be in the supplying of the inputs, and now we're starting to see it was a bit confusing for a while, right? Copper down, silver down. I mean, these are all very important things. If it's sort of a big sort of
Yeah.
straight line up for AI demand, and they're starting to come back a little bit, and we know memory's
Yeah,
kind of gone crazy.
copper had a massive run over the last couple days, along with gold. I mean, really nice run back in copper over the last few days, and you can see names like FCX really starting to make another run higher. Um,
Yeah,
so we're
uranium
starting to
as
see that
well.
on copper and silver. Yeah, palladium.
Uranium as well. Yeah, up 10%,
Oh yeah.
up 10% this week or over the last 3 or 4 days. So Uranium's starting to get attention again, and I know somebody who really watches that industry very carefully, and he was saying, listen, there is absolutely not enough uranium. It is one of the most sort of scarce item for where we're heading. So I think what you're saying is important. Power is an area that's maybe been ignored a little bit, and I think part of the problem is you're seeing some of the solar stocks come back a little bit. I think solar is going to be a part of that. I think at some point you kind of have to look at the nuclear option, and those stocks have not been given much love for a long time. So this is the reality of it: is that
Now,
AI.
by the way, when he says nuclear option, he means nuclear stocks, not actually blowing anything up. Let me be very clear.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, no,
so, yeah, nuclear has been tough. Solar is just starting to get a little bit of love for solar. Nice little recovery here. Yeah, if you're looking to put money into an energy space, are you solar, uranium, traditional energy? I mean, where are you kind of, if you have, you can have the platter, but is there one area where you're kind of putting more of your eggs, if you will?
You know what? I do like solar. So people poo-poo solar, but I think that's sort of, you have to think about what's a little bit more doable. How are we going to fill the gap? So nat gas is going to help there, and interestingly, and that's actually why the whole point is you've got to get the electrons to where they need to be, and that's why I talked about PWR the other day, and it's doing well compared to many of the build out stocks because they don't care who wins this battle. They're the ones who make sure that the electrons get to where they need to be because the cloud plugs in, even though the cloud is obviously up in the sky and it's big and fluffy, but it actually does need physical things. And so I think power is very interesting here. And the bottlenecks are real. And I think we could get to a point where we do start to run into problems. It's, a lot of data centers are nowhere near as far along. And you touched upon the political, societal pushback against these things. Somebody asked me yesterday, do you think China is going to win the AI war? And I think they're kind of on the right path, right? It's a systemic thing, right? There's no, they don't need permission to do things. They don't get pushback.
It's a
people
big
are much more. Yeah, it's a big advantage. The Chinese are actually much more positive about it. They're like, yeah, let's go for it. Let's go for it with AI. And we're like, no, hold on, my water. A data center, the new data centers tend to be enclosed. People are scared about the water. One guy was saying a data center uses as much water as like 1.5 In-N-Out burgers. Like, it's not a big deal. I know people don't want it in their backyard and they're loud and all that, but there are solutions. You can find places for these things. And, the last thing I'll say, Mark, is the US has really dominated on the digital side of things for so long. And I've covered AI since 2017, since when I was running a whole bunch of funds in that area. And I said, listen, there are, we're really good at certain things, but robotics, sensors, physical things have been the domain of other countries like Japan, and China's really coming up. And so as we shift knowledge work to a commoditized sort of world, right? All these models kind of go, now the Chinese models are almost as good. They don't cost anything. They're not as efficient yet, but they will be, right? So software as a service was an incredible business for 20 years. Now that's getting kind of very challenged. So the digital world is where the US really dominated for so long. And the next stage of this is where other people dominate. So I think it's, you can't lose that battle. But again, system, right? System.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's close on a little just quick preview for next week. Next week, we have CPI, we have PPI, and we have inventory. CPI Wednesday, PPI Thursday, and inventories on Friday. For earnings next week, we have a lot of space stocks next week. Rocket Labs, which is a name that we just got a huge home run in Delta Strike on, and then we had a out of the park home run in wiretaps and in trade to close on that one as well. But you also have ASTS, Lunar. You have Light on those are Monday. On Tuesday, you have Light, you have CoreWeave. Wednesday's the big one. Cisco, NBIS, Cerberus, and then Thursday, you've got AMAT, Applied Materials. So, any of those specifically you're watching really closely?
I mean, the space. Well, we've got a position in Rocket Lab. I just took out some. I sold some. Did some income on the position. The premiums,
Nice.
as we've talked about before, are very, very juicy. And I mean, for me, the only space stock to really consider is SpaceX. I think that thing has a lot of upside. But as we know, the unlocks are here, and amazing.
Yeah.
We've had a 10-15% rally, even though we've had all this stock come to market. So it's kind of funny how sometimes it's sell on news and sometimes it's buy on news. And we did talk about that.
If you're trying to front run a known event and we know the outcome of that event, guess what, folks? It's already been priced in. That lockup got priced out when SpaceX threatened $100. That was everybody trying to front run the lockout. And lo and behold, all that money got unlocked, and there was plenty of demand to buy it. And don't always go with the conventional wisdom here, folks. All right, Hans. Well, what a great way to close out the week. If you are interested in trading AI and being at the forefront of all the big changes that are going on in tech and into AI, and getting in on a name like CoreWeave when it was, or not CoreWeave, in Cloudflare when it was half this price. Hans is your guy. Give my team a call, 888-872-3301, and let them know you're watching the show, and they'll give you a special double secret discount. If you tell them you watched Mark and Hans on State of the Market, we'll give you the double secret discount. But you have to, on the phone, lead off by telling them what your favorite junkie cereal is. All right, Hans. Thanks again. Thanks again. The code. Right. Yes, the code is Count Chocula. That is the code.
There you go. Love it.
Hans, I hope you have an amazing weekend. Thank you so much for your time and insight. I look forward to having you on the Ticker Highlight Show next Monday. Folks, Hans Albrecht, our Director of Income Trading and Resident AI Expert. I am Mark Sebastian. I am your only option. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful weekend. I look forward to seeing you guys Monday right here, starting with I Trade That with Garrett at 9:20, and then the State of the Market Show at 10 o'clock. Thanks so much for joining me all week and every day. And thank you so much for being here today. And as always, thank you, Amin. We'll see you guys soon.
You folks.